here to here. Taking all 20. Hi, I'm Jeff Barg. I work at the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, and I'm just vamping until, there it goes, first slide, all right. Pop-up gardens. In 2011, this was what the corner of 20th and Market looked like. It was an empty lot right in the middle of the city with not really much going on there. In fact, nothing going on other than that food truck, which is really good, by the way. My boss was walking by here, said, this can be something else. This can be something different. This can be something more. So we built the first pop-up garden in 2011. We built raised beds, grew vegetables for our PHS City Harvest program, distributed them throughout the city, and 5,000 people came to check it out, which was really, really great. It won a design award at the Venice Architectural Biennale, big international competition. People said, this is fabulous, this is wonderful, let's do it again. In 2012, we picked another lot, this time on Walnut Street, just across from Rittenhouse Square. This is at 19th and Walnut, site of a former movie theater that burned down back in the mid-90s. You might remember, people walk by there all the time. They're like, why is nothing here? Why has nothing happened here? We said, all right, let's take the same elements that we applied in 2011, do the same thing in 2012, and we created a 56-foot-long harvest table that we partnered with Mural Arts, made it look really colorful and pretty, planted lots of really awesome, great vegetables, which again, distributed throughout the city through PHS City Harvest. This time, 6,500 people came, so that was up from 5,000 the year before. We said, all right, this is great, you know, this is a central place in the city, let's do the same thing next year. We pick a lot on Broad Street. This one right across from the Kimmel Center, right next to Broad Street Ministry, owned by University of the Arts. Again, another one of those lots that people walk by every day and say, why isn't there something here? This is the center of the city. This is the center of everything. But we added one new thing this year, something that we hadn't done before, and that was beer. Beer and food, and this was the result. We went from 6,500 people in 2012 to 30,000 came by in 2013. And it sort of was this flashpoint. It immediately became this indelible piece of Philadelphia summertime nightlife. So we said, okay, we have this formula down. Let's do this again. In 2014, we picked a lot on South Street, this time the 1400 block of South Street, right next to the Jamaican Jerk Hut. Again, you know, pick all of those same elements, keeping the food, keeping the beer, but also beautiful plantings and beautiful vegetables and delicious vegetables. And we create a garden that we have this summer topped 50,000 people have come to the pop-up garden. That's up from 5,000 in 2011. If you haven't been yet, you have one more week to do so. We close a week from Sunday. But this was the summer that finally, all around the city, we saw pop-ups exploding all over the place. We saw them in Spruce Street Harbor Park. We saw them at Fergie's Pub. We saw them at the Oval, Eakin's Oval. We saw them at Independence Beer Garden, and a number of other places around the city. Folks are realizing that with this sort of, it's called tactical urbanism. It's quick, it's easy, it's relatively affordable. Planting things is a really cheap way to make things beautiful. What you have to do is just incorporate these four essentials. Number one, food and beer. We got that. Number two, programming. That photo on the right is from one of our Quizzo nights. Number three, location, you know, in the center of things where people are going to go, where people want to hang out. And number four, something PHS tries to do every day, and that is build beauty. We need to make it beautiful. This was the first year that we really tried to measure the economic impact that these gardens were having. There are a couple of graphs here about when folks are coming to the pop-up garden this summer, but this doesn't even tell the full story. This was the first summer that we actually surveyed the businesses around this stretch of South Street, and they told us that people were coming to them and saying, we haven't been to this part of South Street in 10 years, in 15 years. We had no idea that all of these great bars and restaurants were here. Folks in businesses in Philadelphia, they frequently complain about a summertime lull because nobody's here in Philadelphia. Nobody's, you know, everybody goes down the shore. That is not what happened on South Street this summer. Businesses there said that the summertime lull was non-existent. They actually had to staff up in order to accommodate the additional people that came through South Street West. You know, these pop-up gardens, they are interim uses. They pave the way for what comes next. The picture on top here, I took that photo last week. That is an active construction site now on the 2011 pop-up site. And on the 2012 and 2013 sites, there are plans, there are drawings. The SLS International, that's on the Broad Street site, that is currently in plan phase, and the one on the left is a little bit further behind. But you know, you see these same results in things like Parking Day. Celebrations of open space that allow the pop-up gardens to spill into the surrounding streets. These three pictures were taken from our last 3 parking days, where we basically spilled outside of the pop-up garden onto the sidewalk below. And it points directly to sort of what is next in pop-ups. Parklets, which you see popping up all over the city. Again, this is tactical urbanism or spontaneous urbanism. These are those sort of like really nerdy, annoying urban planner words. Things like this are happening, outside of places like Bob and Barbara's and Pumpkin in West Philly. These are cheap and they are affordable and they draw people in. You might have heard about the slight controversy over the summer about the loophole that exists in the LCB laws that allow these pop-up gardens to operate. You'll be happy to know that we have met with State Representative John Taylor, who was the guy who was pushing this. He loves pop-up gardens now. He is really excited about pop-up gardens, and we think, we hope, we believe that this has gone away. But nevertheless, thank you to the 3,500 of you who signed this, the petition. Other thing coming is these are going to go into neighborhoods. So far, all of the pop-up gardens that PHS has done have been in Center City. Next summer, we are going to be pushing out into neighborhoods. We're going to do a pilot in Germantown that sort of looks to incorporate all of these same elements in a neighborhood setting. Looking to do it at times that are not the summertime. Last February, the worst February that Philadelphia has ever seen. You may or may not remember how horribly cold it was. We opened the Broad Street Pop-Up Garden back for one weekend. 2,000 people came and sat and drank beer in a heated tent. This is in the worst February that we have ever seen. So that is going to be happening. You're going to start seeing more aggressive programming, art, music, theater, movies, things that are sort of looking to activate spaces in different ways that still incorporate all of those same 4 essential elements that I mentioned before, but adding another level. And finally, I have one slide left, and so the big question is, where is PHS's pop-up garden going to be next summer? I'm not going to tell you, but it might be one of these spaces. You have 20 seconds to quickly take notes on what those pictures might be, or it might be somewhere else entirely. But wherever it is, I can tell you, I can promise you that it will add the same kind of vitality, it will add the same kind of beauty that pop-up gardens have for the last 4 years from PHS. So thank you.